All right, so welcome officially to the afternoon session of day 27 we're on in the Outstanding Go course. So thanks for those shares, everyone. I'm just gonna dive into today's email and teaching around that, and then that'll take us into today's workbook lesson, which is all about thoughts. So I'll share my screen quickly with you. Okay, so let's okay, so who wants to read the quote? It's a quote from A Course in Miracles.
To know reality is not to see the ego and its thoughts, its works, its acts, its laws and its beliefs, its dreams, its hopes, its plans for its salvation, and the cost belief in it entails.
From the workbook on the ego. So quite powerful quote. To know reality is not to see the ego and everything it entails. Thoughts, its works, its acts, its laws, its beliefs, its dreams, its hopes, plans for its salvation, the cost belief it entails. That means you know, the methodology is to acknowledge it initially and then let it go and then overlook it, so you don't see or perceive it. You clear your mind from it once you've acknowledged it, based on the truth of that. Okay, so today's quote from the workbook. It's one of the inserts we did towards the end of last year. It tells us exactly how we can know reality. Simply overlook everything the ego or belief in separation has invented to obscure it. Easier said than done, you're probably thinking. But Yesha's promise is that we can and inevitably will do exactly this by systematically training our minds to let go of the belief in separation in all its forms as they present themselves in our life experiences. This is what it means to learn how to radically forgive or master the art of ego. So just keep doing it. Keep it's a slow burn, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Keep practicing. So just looking ahead to the weekend, tomorrow we're going to do the matrix one way or another. We'll make a plan. Even if you watch it on your own, I'll see if I can get the tech working. There must be a way. But otherwise we'll do it and we'll just watch it ourselves and then we'll chat about it. And then Sunday afternoon is a big one. We'll be looking at your fundamental life operating program, which you've hopefully identified by completing exercise 5, the course map. So make sure you've completed exercise 5 and 6 before Sunday, because we're gonna use that to get to your flop and then turn it around, flip it over, and that is, can be hugely transformational. I've seen people really have profound shifts, really connect emotionally with this self, the Christ self, really feel it. And we're all doing it. So, so don't miss that. That's going to be from 12:30 UK time. That's 1:30 your time, orally, and 2:30 your time, Christine. So it's about identifying your false self-concepts. That's the core belief of your ego. It can save you years of wasted effort. And so if you can get to the single core belief that is its foundation, right? It's the single idea that is the sponsoring idea or the foundation of all the other ideas, then you're in an excellent position to just flip it and identify with its opposite, which is your essence or Christ identity. So this is what attending the live session will do for you. So don't miss it. Make sure you're there. It will help you do exercise 7 and 8 and 9. They will stack on top of each other, and 10. So they will. It's a progression. One leads to another. If you don't do the one properly, it's difficult to do the subsequent ones properly. Okay, and then tonight we've got another session on the ego and false autonomy, section 2 of chapter 4, starting at 6 o'clock. So forward to seeing you then. So in the recorded discussion, there's always some good stuff which then I talk about, but there's a bit of teaching in there. So I recommend watching it if you can, listening to it. There's also a podcast you can download. Someone mentioned that she felt guilty about something she'd done. It was to do with her work, and she'd kind of told a white lie. She'd said she was going to be somewhere where she wasn't, something like that. But so that sort of kicked off quite an interesting discussion on the ego system of morals and ethics, and what it's centered on. And the ego is pretty rigid. It's got a very firm idea of what's right and wrong, but it's what's right from its materialistic and linear point of view, which is the scientific materialist worldview. So it doesn't really acknowledge the internal domains. Interior, if you look at the integral model, these interior quadrants, it's very focused on this. So the ego likes form-bound rules. It likes laws and rules that are restrictive and restricting. And we only have to look into the world. We've made up a lot of those. These systems that govern the world. There's systems of laws, government systems. There's IT systems. There's natural laws. The natural environment seemingly has laws. All of these laws are part of the ego's construct, and it loves them because it perpetuates itself. But just saying no, you can go beyond this. So your ethics, if you believe in the false laws and you go, well, I'm being ethical, then your ethics are based on what's false. Do you see that? Your whole ethical system foundation is based on falsity, false idea of separation, which will be projected out into all of these laws. So the various laws of this world. We have laws about what you can and can't do. And some of them are coming from spiritual law. That's what we call common law. So don't murder, don't steal, don't hurt another person. That's not a statutory law. It's never been legislated. Those are what's called common law crimes. And those are generally coming from spiritual law. It's like, these are not good things to do. They harm others. They harm you. So there's a punishment for it, but it's not statutory. And then you've got statutory rules, usually which suit the lawmaker, and ultimately the ego sponsoring it. And then we're told that you have to abide by all these laws, because that's being a good citizen. Then you're being ethical. But actually, it's a false construct, false ethics, because it's based on a false thought system. So to be truly ethical, to be truly in alignment with the spirit, would mean you have to deny those laws. A good example was with COVID. The authorities are saying, well, you have to take the vaccine and wear your masks and stuff. And generally, people who are on the spiritual path said, no, that doesn't feel right for me, so I'm not going to do it. And those who are obeying were going, well, you shouldn't do that. You're being unethical and you're harming people, because their system of ethics is distorted, because it's based on the false idea of separation. And someone who's standing for the truth is then seen as false. And so that's how it goes. It's the ego. So remember that. You can't buy in to any of it, which is what he's saying in the quote. Go back to the quote. To know reality is not to see it. Or if you don't even see it, its thoughts, its works, its acts, its laws, and its beliefs, its dreams, its hopes, and its plans for its salvation, cost, belief, and entails. If you don't even see it, then how can you even honor those laws? See? So he's asking us to overlook all of this. Practically speaking, if you're in society, you're probably going to have to do certain things like drive on the left side of the road, which is probably quite a good law because it makes common sense. If everyone did their own thing, we'd have loads of accidents. So there's certain laws that make sense. There's certain that don't. And it's being able to discern, which thought system they're coming from, and then decide accordingly. And that's what this mind training is about. But the principle is pretty clear. So most of what happens in this world, in the external world, is laws of the ego, perpetuating its thought system. And you cannot believe in those, or you remain enslaved to its identity and its laws. And so its laws go hand in hand with its self-concept. Which is why, something like COVID, it was quite shocking, but actually revealing just how entrenched the ego is in people's minds, because people just followed. They followed the so-called law. It was never made into law, but there was, strong, like, yes, you should do this, and some companies were trying to enforce it, and so on. And most people just followed. They went, okay, well, that's a good idea because I believe in the system. See, I believe in my separate self and the system that's created. So that the whole thought system, and then they perceive people who not that are somehow dangerous and radical and difficult because they're not agreeing with their thought system. So their fundamental identity is getting challenged by those people. And then the idea is the ego then says, well, let's control those people. Let's force them to do this. So we force people to obey this false system, and that's of course force. Power versus force. We try and control, we try and manipulate, rather than leaving it open to people's free choice, which is what the spirit would do. Okay, if you want to have a vaccine, have one. Gee, but don't force anyone. Let everyone come to their own decision about it. So, is that any questions on ethics and how that can play out? So it's a useful topic to consider. So if it does cause suffering, the Holy Spirit's ethical thought system only considers whether what you're doing causes suffering or creates peace and joy. So does this create suffering? If it causes suffering for yourself or others, then it's clearly out of accord, the Holy Spirit's way of thinking, because the Holy Spirit is remembrance of perfect love, and perfect love and suffering don't reconcile. So if it causes suffering, it just needs to be forgiven or let go of to correct it. If there's no suffering caused, so for instance, in Bali's case, there was no suffering. No one suffered. The company didn't suffer. There wasn't even any financial loss for anyone. So there was no suffering. So then why does it matter? Why feel the guilt if there's no one suffered? So it can't be of any consequence. And there's really nothing to be corrected because it should be obvious that nothing really happened. No one suffered. No one was really affected. If there's physical, mental, emotional suffering as a result of your actions, your words, then you have to consider it carefully and say, well, am I in alignment with spirit? So sometimes it can just be someone's interpretation. They don't like what you're doing, but you are in alignment with spirit. But you can't honor that because their thought system is false and they are falsely suffering. But if you're causing suffering for someone and you can see that, then obviously you must correct that. The Holy Spirit doesn't create suffering for anyone. That wouldn't be loving. So you need to then have the discernment to ask, okay, well, what is there really suffering? Is this a so-called genuine suffering in the world? It's all illusory, but is this, let's say I've done something to harm someone very clearly? Well, that needs to be corrected. You don't do that. But let's say you refuse to take your COVID vaccine and someone's getting upset. Well, that's just their own projection onto it. And they're getting upset because of their own programming. So to honor that would then be to give the ego honor and allow the ego's thought system to control it through you. So then you would have to say no. So it requires some discernment as to what's coming from spirit, what's coming from ego, what's sort of genuine suffering that I'm really causing. I'm actually hurting someone willfully, and what's just their misinterpretation. And they're suffering, but it's because of their own faulty programming. There's not much I can do about that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you find that there's suffering, your actions are seemingly are causing you and other people suffering, then the answer is simple: let it go. Let it go within your mind. Forgive yourself. It's just a mistake. So you don't beat yourself up and go, well, you caused suffering and now you're eternally guilty. You recognize the error, you correct it in your mind, so you let go of that belief in pain and suffering, which you recognize simply doesn't work. And that restores your mind to the spirit, place where beyond suffering. Okay. And then another chap, Kang, shared that his work that day before the session was recorded. Felt he didn't want to continue doing the job he's doing. So we discussed the situation in the light of the hero's journey. As I said, you're on a hero's journey, and if you feel a dissatisfaction with your job, that could be a call to adventure. If you recall that the call to adventure kicks it all off. So the dissatisfaction with your current situation is often the call to adventure. That is the call to obviously start the whole journey and go much deeper into it. Go through cross the threshold, go through the trials and the tribulations and the failure. Come out the other side. So that's what we're all on. We're all somewhere in this journey. Well, it's just, I think you're all beyond the call to adventure, but the dissatisfaction you felt before this course, that might have been the call to adventure. It's now been a crossing of the threshold. I think the naming of game was, a big shift. And it's now like, okay, we're going further into this, towards the ultimate death and rebirth, death of the ego, resurrection into your true self. And that's what's coming up on Sunday, really. So that could be, we don't know to what level everyone's gonna do it, but it's certainly a part of that. There's a death of the ego and a rebirth of the spirit, and that may take months or years to take place, or it could all happen on Sunday. Who knows? Everyone's journey is individualized. One doesn't know. So just show up and trust that the Holy Spirit will give you whatever experience you need to receive. Okay, so that's definitely worth watching. There's some good stuff on there if you want to dive deeper into that. Otherwise, let's have a look at today's lesson and some of these slides, which, thank you, Elaine, for sharing those. Is everyone finding these helpful? I think they're quite good. Sort of adds a bit of flesh into it. Okay, so who would like to read? Can read the key idea, and then first slide of the quote there.
Okay. I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts.
And then think about things differently.
Yep. Yeah, I like how the differently is backward. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm never alone. I'm not alone experiencing effects of my thoughts, just like I'm not alone experiencing effects of my perceptions, which was yesterday's one. So what's this telling us? You know, minds are joined.
Yeah.
When we think lovingly of someone, the whole sonship lights up. So we're in fragments. We seem to be in parts. And if we start to see the light that's shining through, and I quite like this sort of diamond from the Christ, the Son, it shines into all the aspects. It lights up all the aspects of God. An aspect of God is a son of God. So a person is an extension of this inner light. So result of judgment, result of vision. You want to read that you are being blessed by every.
You are being blessed by every beneficent thought of any of your brothers anywhere. You should want to bless them in return out of gratitude.
So any thought is blessing you. You should want to bless them in return, because we're all, it's one mind. And in this lesson, he talks about private thoughts. So why do we hide our thoughts from others? Someone else read that? Why do we hide our thoughts from others? Any volunteers?
I'll do it.
Okay.
We want to protect others from our thoughts. This is not as obvious as we think. If we dislike someone, why do we care if our words will hurt them? Indeed, we often speak them to hurt them. But have you noticed a tendency to use pseudo-names or to focus your anger on certain aspects of a person as opposed to the person as a whole? It is because we are scared of how much damage we can cause through the anger that courses in our veins. This seems unconscious. However, a part of our mind is very aware of our murderous intents and also very afraid of it. We want to protect ourselves from feeling exposed. Wouldn't it be wonderful to have no need for privacy with regards to our thoughts? That should be our goal, to have no private or unloving thoughts.
Yeah. There's two elements. And the first one, I've definitely experienced that. We want to protect others from our thoughts. Oh my God, this is terrible. I don't want people to know what I'm thinking and what I might do as a result of this. As you said, a part of our mind is very aware of our murderous intents and also very afraid of it. So we're scared of ourselves. It's crazy, but we're scared of what this voice in our minds, this entity might do. And so we hold back. We want to protect others from that, so we don't share our thoughts. And the second one, we want to protect ourselves from feeling exposed. It'd be wonderful to have no need for privacy with regards to our thoughts. That should be our goal, to have no private or unloving thoughts. So private thoughts and unloving thoughts go hand in hand. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Very clearly. Why would you want to hide them if they were loving? Loving thoughts don't need to be hidden. It's only unloving thoughts that need to be hidden. And then the quote, anytime there's anything unloving.
Anytime there is anything unloving that crosses your mind, you should immediately recognize that you do not want to hurt your brother.
So that's the correction. Just by thinking that, you see, just on the thought level, if you're thinking an unkind, unloving thought, then that's going in on some level, programming into the one mind, quantum field, and that's hurtful to that person. Even if you don't, physically do anything about it, just thinking the thought is hurtful. So it's recognizing I don't want to hurt my mind. That's a delusion.
What my conflict is if somebody tells me something and then I want to share it and I can't because it's their private thoughts.
Yeah.
And then I have to keep them private within me.
Yeah. I get that too. Because they don't want to share, and if you share them, then they'll feel betrayed. So it's like projecting your own their private thoughts onto you. And you don't buy the thought system. Yeah. Well, I think in that instance, you have to respect. That's where the person's at. So it's up to them to share or not share. But I know what you mean. I mean, there's a natural tendency to want to share this stuff and let it out. And then, so you have to restrict yourself because those are now thoughts you have it. So now you have to stop.
Yeah, and it feels like it stops my flow. It stops me being authentic and
Yeah. Well, I think we maybe can resolve that one-on-one. So we'll see if that can be orchestrated. And hopefully, Sunday might resolve things as well. It should be good. So, but it's you're aware of it. So, okay, I see that, and then ask for the Holy Spirit to release it.
Yeah,
because it's also it's a co-creation, isn't it? It's not just that person. It's a co-creation of the ego to pull everyone into that private thoughts idea.
Yeah.
So there's okay, well, this is my projection. I'm willing to let that go. I'm willing to open to the Holy Spirit and the healing and no private thoughts, and that applies to everyone. And so then you're playing your part in the healing of that person and helping them to see that no private thoughts is actually very healing. It's a good idea to let it go and really open up and be vulnerable, because that releases it, and private thoughts keep it in place.
Because it's obviously one of my things to work with, because my first job was in a bank, so you had to be confidential with everything there, and then being a therapist, you can't share anything that anyone's told you. So it's obviously a theme I need to resolve within me.
Yeah. So then look at it. The sole responsibility of the miracle work is to accept the atonement and one for herself. Look at it as, okay, what can I let go of here? Is there still a belief in private thoughts that somehow there is a separate mind? Private thoughts are justified. I want to keep my thoughts, separate because, well, it makes me separate, doesn't it? From not sharing the thoughts. And then let go of that belief, and then often that'll be a catalyst for the healing of that belief for everyone in the situation.
Yeah,
that's all you can do, to take the responsibility yourself and trust. But yeah, I mean, if you don't, if someone's asked you not to share something, you do, then they'll feel betrayed, won't they? So you don't want to do that, because that would be another error in your separation by doing that. So you have to have some discernment about how to apply this. Ask yourself what would be truly helpful. Yes, that's the question. What would be truly helpful in this situation? What could I do that would be truly helpful, given that the one goal is that oneness? It would be truly helpful to help everyone concerned to awaken, to free themselves from the ego, to go to the next level in their spiritual journey. And then, if you truly tap in, the Holy Spirit will give you the answer.
Yeah. Okay.
And then let it unfold. Yeah, there'll be a resolution. Okay, and then this last slide, he's just talking about being indiscriminate and random in selecting practice objects. So this is a theme, over the last 20 lessons, saying just randomly look at stuff and don't get attached to it. And so that's ongoing practice, recognition of what is illusion. So an illusion, what you're training your mind to do in doing that is treating everything the same. So whether it's a speck on the floor or a partner's body, this will ultimately enable us to heal cancer just as easily as a cold, because it's all the same. There's no order of difficulty in miracles. There's no hierarchy of illusions. An illusion is an illusion is an illusion. That's what Yeshua's saying. So each illusion is equally unreal. That's the teaching. And so just by looking at everything and not discriminating, so well, it doesn't matter whether I'm looking at a person, a body, an object, something that's living, something that's inanimate, it's all the same. It's all part of the illusion. This is a big part of the mind correction. So this will carry on, through the course, even when it's not a necessary part of his lessons. I'll bring it in the closing part of the meditations. Just get you to go into that awareness. So yet who can save unless he sees illusions and then identifies them as what they are? False. So you see it, you identify it for what it is, you're not fooled by it, and there's a letting go there of that identification. Okay, so that leads us nicely into the actual text of the lesson. So the idea for today, who would like to read that? Someone else, Susie maybe, or orally, Christine, Elaine.
Okay, number 1, did you say?
Yeah, number 1, and then read it in the original, and then read it in the alternative. There isn't actually much to change, just perceive. So read it in the alternative.
The idea for today is obviously the reason why your perceiving does not affect you alone. You will notice that at times the ideas related to thinking precede those related to perceiving, while at other times the order is reversed. The reason is that the order does not matter. Thinking and its results are really simultaneous, for cause and effect are never separate.
Any thoughts on that? What's he saying?
Everything's the same no matter what you're thinking.
Yeah. Ideas related to thinking and perception. So sometimes he says, it's related to thinking, and sometimes it's related to what you're perceiving in the external world. He's saying actually the order doesn't matter because it's all actually happening at the same time. Thinking and its results are really simultaneous. Cause and effect are never separate. So it's getting us to apply this to perception and then to thoughts and recognize that these are totally connected. The ones, the inner domain is actually, it's a really good mind training in understanding the integral model. Although he doesn't talk about the integral model, obviously, it came subsequent to the course. But this explains, this is what he's doing all the time. Going the external perception, that's in the objective, and then saying, but the internal, the thoughts that you have are creating those perceptions. Thoughts and perception are directly linked. So you can focus on either. And in fact, it puts perceptions here, perceptions. Interesting, puts it in the subjective. Although there's physical senses involved, Your perception is your interpretation of things. So perception and thought are completely connected. Can you see that? It's coming to eyes and ears and the rest of the senses tell you is one thing, but it's the interpretation of those that creates the perception. And that interpretation happens through thought, which is why thoughts and perception are so connected. Do you see that?
I just think
what underlies perception is thought and emotion. Belief, thought, and emotion. That's what underlies all perception. Question?
I was just going to say is the perception first, but it's like as soon as you wake up and if the mind is active, it just gets a sign. Your subconscious gets a sign of everything because you don't even know what you're thinking half the time, do you really? Because you don't even know, if your perception is that way as soon as you get up. So it's like clearing it all on a subconscious level, isn't it?
Yeah. So you got to go through the layers, through emotion, thoughts, belief, to get to the core desire or prayer of the heart. So okay, so what is my true desire? What do I truly want? Because that desire or prayer will undo the belief in the ego. You no longer want to be a separate self. That collapses the belief, that changes thoughts, that changes emotions, that changes perceptions. So it's starting to train our minds in this idea that our thoughts create our perceptions. So thoughts and perception are not separate. They are absolutely related. And whether you focus your attention here on perception, you do a lesson on perception, or you focus a level below on thought, it's all part of the mind training. All mind training, correction. Okay, so is that clear?
Yeah.
You're saying thought, internal and so-called external perception are really simultaneous. Cause and effect are never separate. The thoughts cause and then the effect happens simultaneously. I have causative thoughts and then that ripples up into perception, and that happens by default. It happens almost immediately, doesn't it? There's virtually no time from thought to perception, and we just have a default perception. We don't even know why. Because the thought system that generates that perception is already in place, and it's so used to running. It's like a program that just runs automatically. It takes virtually no time. Okay, so let's go back here. Continuous results are really simultaneous. Cause and effect are never separate. So today we are again, someone else, read number 2. Again, emphasizing the fact that minds are joined.
I'll do it.
Okay.
Today we are again emphasizing the fact that minds are joined. This is really a wholly welcome idea at first, since it seems to carry, seems to carry with it an enormous sense of responsibility. It may even be regarded as an invasion of privacy. Yet it is a fact that there are no private thoughts, despite your initial resistance to this idea. You will yet understand that it must be true. If awakening is possible at all, the awakening must be possible because it is the pure formless awareness of perfect love.
Yeah, the will of God. It is the awareness of awakening is that awareness, awakening to that awareness. Okay, so here he's talking about the idea of private thoughts. Enormous sense of responsibility. Invasion of privacy. there's a fact that there are no private thoughts. So it's telling us there are no private thoughts. At all. Despite your initial resistance to this idea, you'll yet understand it must be true if awakening is possible at all. Awakening must be possible because it is the pure formless awareness of perfect love. That awareness is awakening, is that awareness. So private thoughts are just a resistance to that. Okay, any thoughts about that? Comments, questions? No? Private thoughts, invasion of privacy. So we might be resistant. There's quite a lot of resistance around this idea. A lot of people.
Yeah. It's the same as having someone invading your space, no, isn't it? Your personal space. So what is that? Where is that coming from? Where you feel like someone is invading your personal, intimate space?
Yeah, well, it's related to the private thoughts, isn't it?
Yeah.
And wanting privacy and that desire to be separate and so on. So it's all part of the thought system of separation. My personal space, okay, but hang on, you just define yourself as a person. My space.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it goes.
Yeah.
But these ideas are very entrenched. I need my space. So just give me my space.
Yeah.
Don't get in my space. So, but in pure formless awareness, those considerations are not valid. You just, well, actually, there really is no separation between me and the other person.
In Africa, the culture is one of the Ubuntu, which I didn't know about it, but evidently it's very much a cultural thing in that among the Black people, they quite happily walk into your house without knocking or asking to be brought in. And it's quite a shocking thing to realize that people just feel that they can walk into a private space.
Yeah. So it's a different mindset, isn't it?
It's a cultural thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a different thought system.
Yeah, but that's also maybe because they don't have this separation. Maybe they are in that Ubuntu, like I am because you are, because we are.
Yes.
That's what Ubuntu means. That's what it
Yeah.
means. I am because we are, because I am because you are, or I am because we are.
Mm.
And they're very connected to the earth.
Yeah. Mm.
Whereas we've been cultured out of it.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
So
So it's a different thought system. It's a different thought system. Mm. It's playing out.
And that's what makes the differences, and that's what makes us judge what is right and what is wrong.
Mm. There's a feedback coming through.
Yeah, Susie's phone. I think it's Susie's iPhone. Yeah.
Okay, it stopped. Yeah. So, So we go, that's wrong. That's wrong. Private space. Stu, I'm not sure if it's an echo. On the call. I'm speaking and it's echoing. Echoing through somehow. Have you got headphones on? Can everyone else hear the echo?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, I can't hear it. Okay, maybe it is mine.
I can hear it.
Okay, I'll go on mute. Yes, I can hear it.
I don't know why it's doing that.
Yeah, now it's okay. Yeah, she's just muted.
Stop.
Yeah, now it's stopped.
All right. It's echoing through the speakers or something. The tech wonders of IT. Yeah. So that's a a cultural, that's a belief, a value system which doesn't really acknowledge private space, does it? It's like, well, there's no private space. It's all one.
Yeah, but in the world you live today, how can you actually, I mean, it's very tricky, this one, because, the world we live today with all the crimes, I mean, especially there in Hardway, there's a lot of crime, a lot of robberies I've experienced a few times, but,
Well, yeah, that's the system we live in, isn't it? The system is like, well, there's apparently threats outside of us. And you need to defend and you need to protect.
So there's no other way than protecting your space. That's why you need this protection of your thoughts.
But can you see it's all parts of the whole system? It's part of the
but
system.
it's hard to juggle around that. Like, I mean, how do you deal with this? Like, it's impossible to really do anything else than wanting to protect your space, protect your personal space or your house or your home, like, I mean, over there, they have electric fences everywhere because of that.
I know. Very well. So, but it's a thought system clearly based on separation.
Yes, obviously. Yeah.
So it's entrenched in that society. And, but yes, you're saying ultimately it's not true. Right? It's part of the illusion. So, if you live in that society, then you might take some reasonable precautions. You're not necessarily going to leave your doors unlocked and your house wide open, but you don't buy the thought system. You don't let the fear govern you. That's really important because otherwise it becomes all consuming. The ego's got a hold. It's like, oh well, I need to defend more. Then it's no, that's not enough defense. I need security cameras and I need and the paranoia. I saw it with my sister. It's like really, serious fear. Oh no, we're gonna get broken into and we're gonna get robbed and all that. And that's
I get that here as well. I get that as well. My parents also have an alarm in the middle of nowhere in the countryside. It's like, it's crazy. It's like,
well, can I open my mouth and I'll be shut upon all over again because it's my ego. But since my divorce and separation 23 years ago, I was very against insurance, taking out insurance, putting up all these alarms. I hated the noise of the alarm system. I didn't like the electric fences. And I was just into going into the spiritual world of the light will protect me. Just put a bubble of light around me and I will be protected. So, of course, all my family disappeared. My kids were 21 and 23. And they all moved into that fear world of, I've got money, I've got things, I've got to protect myself. And they all had all the alarms and the security and the cameras and the beams and the codes. And when they went away and I would have to look after their animals, I would have to remember these codes, and there's 3 different families. So I'd have to write them in my phone so I didn't get them mixed up, and then I had to learn how to work the different. It was absolutely mind-shattering for me. I thought, how ridiculous. And I, who do not have a dog to protect myself and do not have electric fencing or alarm systems or any kind of security at all, have never had a burglary, have never had a break-in, because I don't do it regularly, but I do put a bubble of light around my house.
Yeah.
And I tell my family, this is all you need to do is put a bubble, they roll their eyes.
Yeah, because they believe in this scientific materialist paradigm. So they're saying, well, the only thing that's going to work is the external, isn't it? You've got to take precautions on the external level, because the causation is external. They believe in external causation. Well, there's people out there, they're homeless, they're jobless, they don't have money, they're going to come. They don't understand that it's causation lies in your mind. If they fear that, then they will attract that.
That's exactly what I say to my mom, because it's the same. It's like we're in the countryside in the middle of nowhere and she needs an alarm. But it's like, it's a mindset. It's like the more she fears, the more she will attract this kind of situation.
Your defenses, the more you alarm and the more defenses you have, the more you're saying, well, I'm fearful.
Exactly.
Otherwise, why would I need to defend?
Exactly.
Like this? So it becomes it's a slippery slope from one private thought.
Yeah.
You can see how that can get blown out of all proportion. I mean, you see what's happened in society like South Africa. It's just huge separation, all this privacy, protecting, defending personal space, personal property. And that's normal. That's the default system that most people believe in. And they just buy into it without questioning. Well, of course you need security. Well, do you? It's the question. If causation is internal and it's in your thoughts and you really don't fear, that you're in the light and that you protected, maybe even you don't even have to think you protect.
Yeah, it's just to bridge the gap, actually. That's all it is.
There is no threat. You don't perceive a threat. Then if there's no fear, then how can it happen? That's the interesting thing. If causation is internal, and there has to be some resonance in you, there has to be some fear in you for something to happen, then it's within your power to let go of all of that fear.
Yeah.
Be fearless, and then the causation would drop. It cannot happen.
Yeah, what struck me there, I mean, I'm talking about Hot Bay where you are, Christine. It's like this big contrast between the township and these houses and villa that have these electric fence, and then the township where it's all free and open. You can go in there as free as you want to, but people are scared to go there. And it's just the fear. Exactly. But all it needs is, let go of the fears and bridge the gap, and then be, instead of being in that that scarcity, because it's funny, because it's the people who usually have nothing that are in the abundance and the mindset, and the people who have this villa, they are in the scarcity, fear of lack, or fear of being robbed. It's like the scarcity mindset is more in people who have everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because they think they can lose it.
Yeah, exactly. So
there's the rub. We are not all one.
There's still a big gap to be bridged.
The belief is so strong to defend yourself if you got too much. And both my ex-husband and my daughter, when she was living in the City Bowl and he lives in the City Bowl, both of them were attacked on the mountain. She was attacked on one of the streets near her home because they walk around with this fear. And when I went walking with my daughter once in Constantia, she would say, "Mom, there's a private sign. You can't walk on this road." And I said, "But I always walk in." "No, but it says private property." I didn't even see the sign, whereas she is alerted to all the danger signals. So her energy field attracts
that.
But do you think I can get through to them? I can't reach them. And this is what I'm questioning here, this cultural norm, these different belief systems that are pandemic on our planet, and that cause the divide. And it is about all around judgment, thinking I'm superior to you and you're superior to me. How do we ever equal that out?
Well, you don't have to worry about that. You just have to worry about correcting your own mind. That's all. The sole responsibility of the miracle worker is to accept that one for herself. So
I don't
It's
know.
just about a correction of your own mind. So you don't believe in these private thoughts. Don't believe in the thought system that has led to this highly separated, dysfunctional society. Even while you're living it, you don't have to believe in it. And that's potentially, it does create some challenges, especially if you're dealing with people who do believe in it. But you still have the power to choose, what you want to believe. And, you've done that with your house. You said, okay, I'm not going to go down the whole route of security and alarms and so on, because it's not in accordance with what I believe. And you've never had a break-in.
But if we're all connected on the collective, if we're all one mind, surely that should have an effect on the people around me. Surely.
Well, on some level, but remember, this ego is very strong. I mean, what we're talking about here is the default thought system of the planet. So when people come here to be separate selves, and so this is what they're born into, the matrix, and then there's all the conditioning that goes around it, and then there's the external world that tells them it's very dangerous, and they watch the news, and they hear stories of friends who are getting, robbed and raped and murdered, and so the fear is the default system of the ego. And most people, unless they have a real willingness to go on a spiritual path like this and really question all of that, are just enslaved by it. They accept the program and they just go, okay, well, I'll just, that's how it is. So I just have to obey these laws without question now. And because this is what's going to keep me safe.
And
The laws.
a movie like The Matrix isn't going to sway them one way or another. They're still going to see the Matrix for the drama that it is, rather than what the message that Neo is bringing in. They can watch it over and over again, but they won't see it from that spiritual point of view.
Yeah, until they're open, until there's an openness in them to say, maybe through a lot of pain, okay, I can't do this anymore. I'm open to another way of looking at the world, a completely different thought system, which completely contradicts this world. So we find these, you say, well, how's that ever going to work? A society so deeply entrenched in fear and separation, especially in South Africa. How's that ever going to correct? And you don't have to answer that question. It's not up to you. That's the Holy Spirit. You just have to correct your own mind. Your sole responsibility is to accept the one for yourself. That's all. So that's all you have to do.
Well, I do that. So
yeah, and then that's all you can do. You can't be responsible for them. They will believe what they choose to believe. But you can demonstrate there is another way, and that's your job. Okay, well, there's another way. You can choose it or not, but I will be the light. I will demonstrate that way, and I won't go into the fear.
Well, she is demonstrating it actually by not having electric fences.
Exactly. So you demonstrate
barricaded.
So you demonstrating that actually, well, it is actually safe. It does actually work because you haven't been, been broken into, and it's up to people to interpret that how they want. They believe or they don't believe. We all have a choice, and if they're not ready to believe, then they won't. But you still, from your own perspective, you're doing the right thing. You're holding to the truth, and you are allowing people to see that truth in you, and giving them the opportunity to come into miracle mindedness through the example. Well, that's all you can do. Everyone's not going to follow suit.
And just respect free will.
Oh, they have a choice if that's what they want to do. Okay, you're not going to lecture them or tell them you're wrong or get it. Just like, well, but I choose to do it differently, and respect that. They just don't need to respect your choice as well. The ego, though, it generally doesn't. You see, it's going to try and pull you into their thought system because that justifies their thought system. They want everyone to be the same.
Yeah.
Because any alternative to the ego's thought system is a challenge to it. It feels threatened by it. Its identity feels threatened. So then you become a threat to their very existence.
I think I have.
Yeah.
I have.
then they find it uncomfortable and they find it difficult to deal with them. At the extreme of that, in wars and conflicts and so on, people kill each other because you make me feel uncomfortable. You're opposing my thought system, so that, okay, well, you're an infidel. I can kill you then. It's okay. Because, I have the truth and you don't. You're something, not of God. It's a bizarre belief system, but, that's accounted for so much violence and murder in human history. It's extraordinary. It's just a false belief system playing out. So,
yeah. Well,
that's what I'm receiving as projections from my external.
Just hold to the truth. The truth is true. I live this way. I trust.
I do, and I suppose they do trust me too, because the children are often left here sleeping overnight.
Mm.
So they don't have a problem with that.
Mm. Even though you don't have the alarms and the security. So,
yeah.
No. So, you've demonstrated, look, there's another way of doing this. You don't have to kind of solve problems on the level of form with fear. You fear. This is my attempted mastery through fear. I try and make myself really safe, and I'll get the latest alarm system, and it's mastery through fear. You're trying to solve the problems through fear, but it actually makes the problem worse because the fear is what's causing it. The fear is what will cause someone to come and attack you. The more you fear that, the more likely that is to happen. We know that because it's a resonance. So you have to have an energetic imprint. If there's no fear in you, then that couldn't happen because there's no causation. It's not just things, nothing happens randomly. If there's no causation, then it can't happen. It doesn't materialize. It's in you. So that's your ultimate protection. Okay, well, just let me clean my mind of all fear. And then if I'm in a fearless state, that's my ultimate protection against all apparent threats and dangers in this world, because I just don't acknowledge that they're real. See that? So that's what he's asking us to. That's where he's asking us to go, into the fearless state of mind, where we are protected, because there's no fear. Then if there's no fear of punishment, then how can punishment come? It's not in your thought system. And people say, oh, well, what about, people have their own things. There's all kinds of crazy people out there who have other ideas. Well, that's the idea of separate minds, isn't it? They have a mind seemingly separate from you. But actually, the truth is your mind is joined. It's one. It's going into the quantum field. And if that's the signal you're giving out so clearly, then it can't happen because you're programming it accordingly. That's the simple truth. Okay, so private thoughts, it's a good topic of conversation, and really it's about the change of mind. What happens on the level of form? You're not necessarily going to invite everyone to share your social media posts or these kinds of things. Be sensible with it. But in your mind, you're going, I recognize that there are no private thoughts. We're all connected because there's only really one mind. If you do the correction at that level, then the Holy Spirit will guide you as to how to interpret that in various life situations that crop up. Okay? So then we go into some practice, and then he talks about the indiscriminateness, which we talked about, just lack of order, requirement of much indiscriminateness as possible. Selecting subjects should be quite familiar. So he's just saying, we'll just keep doing that. But random selection is important because it ultimately teaches us that there's no lack of order. There's no lack of order in miracles. Miracles are all the same. They're in the same domain. They come from the domain that's beyond time and space. So there are no difficulties. There are no limits and levels, and all of that gets done away with when you just believe in two orders. There's this or one order. You say there's this illusion, but none of it's true. Right? That's the Holy Spirit's only interpretation. None of it is true. It's all false. And then you recognize, well, there's no hierarchy of illusions, so therefore there's no order of difficulty in miracles. They can all be let go of. Okay, so any other thoughts, comments on this lesson? Private thoughts, good one. Deep subject. We could probably discuss it for hours. Just on private thoughts. The one of the rules in the Living Miracles community, which is David Hoffmeister's community that he set up. And now there's many people, and they've got various places they go and live in community in the US and in Spain. So Mexico, yeah, US, Mexico, Spain. I think it's 3 centers. So one of the rules is no private thoughts in those communities.
Yeah.
They've chosen that, not unconditional love, because that's too airy-fairy, isn't it? That's like make it very specific. No private thoughts. Because if you have private thoughts, then what that starts is a chain of, oh, well, now I'm separate from you and I have my own thoughts. And now there's separation going on, and then I play that out in my behavior. And all the kind of ego games. And private thoughts just stops it because I have no private thoughts. So everything's shared, and they have what they call expression sessions. It's shared. If you've got something coming up, you share it, and it's exposed, and then there can be a letting go. But private thoughts and separation and the ego's games go hand in hand. So that's interesting. They've chosen that as one of the 2 precepts on which they base the community. And the other one is no people pleasing. No private thoughts and no people pleasing. So you speak your truth. You communicate honestly, openly. Very similar to these pathways, isn't it? If you recall, in the pathways, in relationships, I must open myself genuinely to all people, but I'm willing to fully communicate my deepest feelings. So no private thoughts. Since hiding in any degree keeps me stuck in my illusion of separateness from other people, that is directly connected to this lesson. No private thoughts. And so I can feel with empathy problems of others, like getting caught up emotionally in their predicaments. The 9th pathway, I act freely when I'm tuned in, centered, and loving. If possible, I avoid acting when I'm emotionally upset, depriving myself of the wisdom that flows from love and expanded awareness. So that's the caveat. Okay, if I'm not in my true awareness, I can just temporarily correct, give myself the time to correct before I express genuine, which can be helpful. Okay, so any other comments, questions, thoughts on this lesson? Otherwise, we'll go into practicing it with the meditation. Should we do that now?
Yeah. Yes, please.
Okay. So just making yourself comfortable. Sitting your feet shoulder width apart, back straight, have your hands on your lap. Close your eyes and start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose, so breathing in. Noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises, and the subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Just pausing at the top of the inhale. Scan your mind, so notice any thoughts going on, whatever's going on for you, particularly anything that feels negative or limiting, contracted, constricting in any way. And you just let it go. Blow it out with the breeze of your breath to the nothingness that it really is. It's going, gone. Pull the stomach into the spine. Remind yourself that I'm not alone experiencing effects of this thought about whatever it is. So just observe your thoughts, breathing in and out through the nose, in through the nostrils and out through the nostrils. Notice how the stomach rises and the chest rises and the subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. It's opening the mind into true awareness. Just awareness shining through. And you observe any thoughts going on, just scan your mind. So consider any thought that comes, name it in terms of the central person or theme it contains. Hold it in your mind as you say, I am not alone in experiencing the effects of this thought about. Name the person, name the object, situation, whatever it is. And just feel a sense of detachment as you say that. So these are not really even your personal thoughts. They're just thoughts coming in, blowing through the mind. So just observing the breath, observing any thoughts, any other thoughts coming in, just say, I am not alone experiencing the effects of this thought about whatever it is, whoever it is. And then just let it go, just like a cloud. It helps you with visualization. It's just like a cloud pattern. It's rising and it's drifting away. There's no power to obscure the eternal light that you are. So you just let it go. To the nothingness that it really is. Let it just drift away. Find the stillness and the emptiness. Deep peace and stillness beyond. Beyond the dream world. Beyond thought. Just going to allow that pure formless awareness to shine through. Awakening must be possible. says Yeshua, because it is pure formless awareness of perfect love. Ideas, in other words, it's there. So awakening to that must be possible. So just sinking inwards, there's really nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. Just breathe, relax, be still, quiet, still, calm, beyond thought, just rest in thoughtless awareness. Nowhere else to go, nothing else to do. Observe the breath. Let yourself sink deeper and deeper with each breath into this calm, peaceful, thoughtless awareness. And if you notice any thoughts, again, just observe them casually. Arise. You can name them, say, I'm not alone, and experiencing the effects of this thought about whoever or whatever it is. And don't try and select anything or avoid it. Whatever thought is there, indiscriminate. Just use whatever is there. This thought about I'm not alone, experiencing the effects of this thought about whoever, whatever. You exhale and feel a dissipation, letting go of something, degree of separation. From this person or object. And then just rest in this peaceful awareness, beyond thought, thoughtless awareness, pure, formless awareness, perfect love. Another couple of minutes of So just gently coming back from this deep state to an awareness of the body, the breath, the senses, and the world. And on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises, and the subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Pause at the top of the inhale. Again, scan your mind. Notice any thoughts going on. Remind yourself, I'm not alone experiencing the effects of this thought about whoever or whatever it is. And then exhale, just let it go. Imagine it's like a cloud just blowing away. Blowing it away with the breeze of your breath into the nothingness that it really is. On the count of 2, just notice the weight of your body pressing down into the chair, your feet touching the ground. Notice what you're feeling and touching. Your hands, maybe there's a subtle taste in your mouth, a smell in your nose, notice that. And notice what you're hearing, surrounding environment. Noticing all these things from this very still, calm, and surrendered state of mind. So you're going to stay in this awareness, rooted in this awareness for the rest of the afternoon. If you need to top yourself up, just practice today's lesson using the written instructions I've given you in the Telegram email message, or there's a short recording, just 4 minutes, that you can listen to, or a longer one. So just top yourself up if necessary, and stay in this, connected to this deeper awareness. So it is said. So it is done. Then now on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. So just take a minute to look around, just observing what's going on in your environment, and apply the idea to whatever you're seeing. As he's saying, it doesn't really matter whether it's thought or it's perception. So I'm not alone experiencing the effects of this thought about whatever you happen to see. If you look at an object, there's a thought that arises. I'm not alone experiencing the effects of this thought about the object. The situation crops up, and apply the idea again. I'm not alone experiencing the effects of this thought about whoever or whatever it is. And one more time, just remind yourself, I'm not alone. I'm experiencing the effects of my thoughts. And just rest in that peaceful awareness for the next few hours. We've got another session happening at 6 p.m. tonight. We're going to be covering section 2 of chapter 4, which is on the ego, and let's just see what the exact title is. It's the ego and false autonomy. So it should be a good one. Let's have a look. It's fairly, I think it's about 11 paragraphs. Yeah, 11 paragraphs. So quite a bit to do. Hopefully see you later. That brings us to the end of today's session and the meditation.
Thank
you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
Namaste,
you.
everyone.
Namaste.
See you later.
Thank you. Namaste.
See you later. Is everyone going to join tonight?
Yes, we'll be there.
Okay.
Bye.
All right. See you later.
Bye.